Senior Report thanks Edmund Besch of Bristol Burgess Insurance Agency, 65 East Main Street, Westfield, for his generous grant to provide news to seniors. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Funding is provided by a grant from Absolute Care of Westfield, committed to returning the favor to those who spent a lifetime caring for others. Absolute Care is located at 26 Cass Street in Westfield. Dave Cass and Rick Newell provide funding on behalf of the Lakeview Hotel and Restaurant at the Docks, located on Water Street near the lake in Mayville. Senior Report with Reed Powers thanks Westfield's Schultz Chevy for a generous grant to inform seniors of important news. Over 50 years of service to Westfield by Chevrolet, Schultz Chevy across from the school. The physicians of Jamestown Primary Care are happy to sponsor the Senior Report. From the Access Channel 5 television studio in Mayville, it's Senior Report with Reed Powers. Senior Report is broadcast live throughout northern Chautauqua County on Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. each week. Call in and share a thought, make a comment, ask a question, or simply wish someone a happy birthday on Chautauqua County's only live call-in senior program. Since 1995, Reed has been bringing viewers hundreds of interesting guests, informing the community on a variety of subjects. Here's the host of the show, Reed Powers.
And good morning. What a beautiful day we have here in Chautauqua County. Sun is beaming down, and there's a little touch of the a little edge of frost in the air, but it ain't bad. Coming over the hill, it wasn't even frosted on the ground, so it's terrific. Wonderful time of year. The nut trees, everywhere you go, you see a bunch of nuts rolling around on the street, and if they're not crushed, you know they're black walnuts. Nothing crushes black walnuts. They're free though, and the honey season is on, and I saw a big turkey on the way over, a lady turkey walking along the side of the road, apparently totally oblivious to the traffic. Of course, the hunters are out looking like crazy for turkey. I think turkey season must be open by now. We have the deer season coming on in another, I don't know, it looks like another month, but Halloween's come right around the corner, and people are getting their yards Halloweened up with the pumpkins and everything. Gosh, there's a million pumpkins. Must have been a great year for pumpkins up here. Apparently you throw one seed on the ground and you get 500,000 pumpkins. Well, excuse me, that old cough is there. We have with us a wonderful guest. He's been with us ever since the program started. He was a district attorney for many years here in Chautauqua County, Jim Subjack. I'm sure you all know him, and he's going to be here to discuss some of the pertinent matters in terms of legalities for seniors, elder care, and so forth. And you can always call in on this show anytime you want to ask a question, make a comment, give somebody a credit, whatever it is, 753-5225. All callers receive $5 off over at that little restaurant, beautiful, two restaurants, Valentino's and the Lakeview at the foot of the hill here in Mayville, New York. Can't beat their fish fry either. Oh, laps all over it. Just, my wife and I split one. It's just too big for one person. Lots of things happening around us. My goodness. Of course, the crossfire is going on between Obama and especially Ryan. Apparently Ryan's is the cat's claw for the program for Romney, and they are just at it all the time. They accuse our vice president of laughing too much. I agree with it. Better to laugh than to cry, huh, Biden? We have not only political games going on, each attacking the other. The Romney camp saying, you haven't done anything with the economy, it's a mess, and Obama saying, well, you did it. So what's going on here? And nobody seems to be able to take the blame for anything, really. It's just everybody's doing everything wrong, and we hope to heck that at least the Congress will work again this year after the elections. They're holding off on tax increases until after the elections, I notice. At state level, too, I might add. We'll have to see what happens there. As Chautauqua County is underwater tax-wise, they've still got a deficit we got to clear up here. I think it's about 3 or 4 million. They found 10 million, which was wonderful. It was lost in the shuffle, and they found it. So we're a little ahead there. Maybe they can find another 3 or 4 million. Oh, well, whatever. They always have a bankroll, which they tap all the time, and I think we're tapped out about now. Our credit card is almost finished. Local stuff. I wanted to mention United Senior Citizens. They are a good outfit to join because you're talking about leadership. You have all the leaders of the various senior groups who join it, and a lot of other people join it. You don't have to be a leader. You can be a follower. You can be the tail end of the parade. It doesn't matter. They take all seniors over there, and they usually have 80 to 100 members join up. They always have a luncheon, and usually they meet at the Fredonia Beaver Club, which is a wonderful little place. I just wanted to mention over there a happy birthday to Anita Golubsky and to Mickey Kalashia and Tilburg, Vicky Stelmack, Leo Bain, Norma St. George. And Mr. St. George is the guy who runs the show. He's been a very active senior for many years, so join that group. It's called, again, the United Senior Citizens. And there's another one, United Seniors or something, which is very similar, but it's not the big one like this guy. They have a lot of, they just like to do things. And they tell you, incidentally, over there, in any club, pay for your lunch in advance. Then they don't have to follow up, they don't have to call, they've got you listed, you're all set. So if you have a luncheon that you got to pay $2 or $3, it's very cheap usually. Get your money in advance. Don't wait around to the last minute. Bingo, hosted by Mamie Joy and Carolyn Lagredici. They have a great, I don't know, they just have a great bunch. United Seniors, don't miss them. A couple other notes here. I did want to mention the Brockton Portland Seniors. Now, they meet at the American Legion, and it's a small group, not huge. Robin Carr runs the show over there, and they usually have 40, 50 members around, like most senior groups, whenever they have a meeting, and sometimes more. And they have they basically do things together. They play bingo, they have their meetings, they give money to the local organization, they help the local organizations, they dig in with their sleeves rolled up, I'll tell you. And I want to say a happy announcement to Bill Norris and Dorothy McQuiggan, which a couple of groups over there, groupers. And it's just great. And Marjorie Dale, 92 years, and active and hopping around. They can't beat it. They wanted to mention that they're having a 38th anniversary celebration over there by Rick and Kate Cranston. I'm 50 years. I don't know. I guess I'm a real old-timer. Brick's Wine Tasting does a lot of stuff. They had a fundraiser over there recently, incidentally. I got a lot of stuff here, but they're telling me we're going to have a long program because Jim always has a lot of great stuff, and we get a number of calls, so I think I'll try to move on here. Brockton School, incidentally, is giving a class which would be important for you on estate planning. So drop around November 15th. November 15th, Brockton School, estate planning. Very important to plan your estate, because if you don't, it'll be gobbled up by the state, the feds, the taxman, everybody in sight. So plan your estate. And they change things now. I understand that if you give away your something to your kids, They'll take it back if your kid needs medical services or something, or you know, his long-term care. Whatever. They take it back because they say, well, 10 years ago you gave it away in anticipation of long-term care. 10 years ago. New York is the vampire state. That's a New York thing. New York, the vampire state. Okay, well, enough of that. Happy birthday over there to Baldwin. Enough said. We've got a guy coming on in a minute. I have a public service announcement for you, and then John Hamels, who only speaks German now, just back from Germany, but he'll be on to say a few words to us in German. And here you go. This is for you, public service announcement.
They hold so much potential, and we'd give anything to make sure they're taken care of. They're the reason we go to work, the reason we stay home, the reason we worry, laugh, cry, and love. Our children and seniors represent the dreams and hopes of all of us. At the United Way of Southern Chautauqua County, we're working to build a better dream and create a greater hope. When you give to the United Way campaign, you're creating those dreams and hopes too. Let's build a better tomorrow. Invest in today.
They've got a list of bad guys. Okay, we have with us the guy who shoots the hit, John Hamels, back from Germany. Say something in German.
Guten Morgen, Herr Powers.
What's that mean?
It means, are you Republican or Democrat? It just basically says, good morning, Mr. Reed, that's all.
Okay.
Well, Reed, I got a little thing here I want to show you here in a second. I don't know if Jeff is ready. But this weekend, next weekend, Friday, Saturday, at the Children's Safety Education Village in Asheville, New York. It's the Town of Terror. And here's an individual that you might recognize. I don't know if you know. Oh, there he is.
Look at that guy.
Who is that, man? As part of the group, I was, there I go. We're putting on makeup and things like this, and if you want to get scared, I think it's a good place to get scared. The fun thing about this, folks, is at the Safety Village, it's all contained. It's all purposeful in the sense that we want folks, families to come out, get scared, have some fun, have some laughs, get a couple chills, and it's not like you're out in a strange neighborhood or whatever. It's all controlled. You've got even Joe Girassi there with his crew doing crazy things. Joe Girassi was one of the original founders. The Sertoma Club actually was the one that started the concept here in Sertoma. Huh. That was with Tony Raffa and a few of those guys. And then eventually the Legion Hall in Celeron became very active, and then a bunch of us have been on there. I've been on there like 15 years.
Kids ride bikes and stop and start,
The Safety Village is a miniature village for pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and so forth. And, we forget about just like holiday safety, like Halloween, trying to make sure kids are safe, not getting into candy they shouldn't be getting into, crossing streets in the dark. So this is a great fun night. But I got to remind you, it's for 9 years old and up. This isn't for little guys. This is pretty scary. They are going to have something special, and I'll talk about it next week on the 30th for young children, like a trick-or-treat kind of a thing. But this is the Town of Terror, and you got zombies, and you got body parts flying, and lights, and just all kinds of wild things. So I was a zombie giving some people some hard time.
Okay, now where is it, and when is it again?
All right, tonight it starts at 6 o'clock. There's concessions, and the actual show starts at 7. It starts with a hayride that's like a haunted hayride, and then you go into the village itself. So it's a 2-part activity. It's $10 a person, and it's at the Chautauqua Children's Safety Education Village, which is on the same property right next to the Hughes Educational BOCES Center in Asheville, New York.
Asheville, New York. Okay. And next week too, right?
It'll be tonight because it was Friday, Saturday. And then again next week, Friday, Saturday, same thing.
There's a thing up there you got to mention.
Okay, now something today really important that we gotta hit hard, folks. Here in the Mayville, Westfield area, our Rotary Club is having its annual Gold Rush. This is an opportunity to not only help out our local communities with all the projects that our Rotary does, but it also is a lot of fun tonight. We give away up to $1,000 in cash prizes. It's a reverse drawing. I don't know if you've ever been to reverse drawing, Reed, but every ticket is drawn, and then like every 10th winner, 10th name is a winner, excuse me, and then we give out a variety of different cash prizes, but the big prize is $1,000. For $30, you get a steak dinner, all the beer or soft drinks you can drink. You got dessert, salad, baked potato. There's usually about 300 people there. It's the Westfield Fireman Exempt Hall. I think I said that, or is it Exempt Fireman? Which way is it? I would go backwards.
Fireman's Exempt Hall.
But you know, so
right
anyways,
across the two railroads and turn right.
If you don't have your tickets yet, it's out on Borden Street. There are still a few tickets left that you can buy at the door, so come on out and support that. Hey, Reed, I got a few pics you want to see from Germany?
Let's go.
All right, let's see who the first one
I
is.
want to see the castle you're going to buy.
This is my new, I'll see what shows up. All right, Reed, this is the newest thing that I've seen in Germany. I heard about these, but I hadn't seen these. I believe this is a Peugeot, which I believe is a French vehicle. But when you're out on the Autobahn, you can see a Lamborghini coming up on you on the left going 200 miles an hour, and on the right you see this little one-seater, and it's like a half a smart car, and you're going to see more of these, I suspect, here in the United States coming. With
Yeah, how many people can ride in that little car?
one. It's a one-seater.
No
Okay,
kidding.
that was buzzing by me in traffic. Okay, what's the next one we got here? Okay, I took this shot because this is typical of southern Germany, not northern Germany. This is what they would call Schwabish, or the Black Forest area, and this is the typical little scene you'll see in the villages. This was in Leonberg, and I can't read the date, but I think this is 1571. Europe preserves things, we knock it down.
Yeah, we rebuild.
And I think there's one more shot. There we go.
There's your castle.
There's my new castle. You know, 2 weeks ago I looked at one castle, but this one's far better. This is the Liechtenstein Castle, and it's called Liechtenstein because it's built on limestone. And Liechtenstein, it's not like the country, it's spelled a little differently. It means light stone. And so it sits on this limestone, which you know is white, and it sits on this edge of this cliff, and you go up in the tower, and it's really, really cool. It's been around for about, I don't know, 700, 800 years, but it was just a great time. Germany looks a lot like our hills of western New York, especially in the Westfield, Mayville area. It's got the fall colors and so forth. But my last comment I want to make about my German trip is, and I'm not going to talk politics today, that'll be next week, okay? But when we have our elections for president, Europe sits on the edge of their seat, and as do other countries. But talking to my friends over there, we saw my good friend Rudolph and his wife Leoba that was down here last year. They realize that as the country goes, so does the world. So the vote this year is more important than ever. Just think about that, November 6th coming up. But I'm not going to talk politics. Back to you, Reed.
Get out and vote.
Get out and vote.
All right. Thank you, John Hamels. Recently back from Germany. Okay, here's our guest. He knows we're going to let him on because he's been on this show probably more than anybody else we have who comes on the show. Jim Subjack. Jim is an attorney. He has an office in Fredonia, and his wife is on the board there. So you're pretty well connected.
Well, I hope so.
So why don't you come on over here a little bit?
Okay.
Well, then they
I'm not being fresh.
They want no, don't touch me. they want to be able to get both of us in the same picture, if
Well,
possible.
it's hard enough to get me in the same picture.
Okay, so Jim, we were talking recently about some of the boards and service. I know you give a lot of service to the community, as does your wife. What's her name again?
Janelle.
Janelle. Okay. Janelle Subjack, Jim Subjack, they give a lot to their community. Now, you serve on several boards.
Yeah, one that I wanted to mention because there was a commercial for it about the United Way. I'm the president of the United Way of Northern Chautauqua County. There's been quite a bit of uproar as of late with the Boy Scouts of America.
As of late,
yeah, that's true.
For years
That's
now,
true.
There's been a huge uproar about the fact they sponsor the Boy Scouts heavily.
Right.
And the Boy Scouts, unfortunately, have a program which denies the gay community and it fosters, let's say, distrust of the gay community, whatever, and they're under heavy criticism because of this. Even the Congress brought it up, but they said, well, we cannot deny funding or defund them because they're theoretically a private organization, the Boy Scouts.
And a not-for-profit.
And not-for-profit.
Well, what we've done,
there's a big hassle been going on here.
There is. What we've done, however, in the United Way of Northern Chautauqua County, now you have to understand when we fund an organization or an agency, that funding is done for a year, and that funding now is about halfway through the year, even though this year is almost over. The funding for our last drive or our last fundraising continues on into next year, actually to about July 1st, June 30th. But what we have done in the meantime is we, as the United Way, always had a non-discrimination clause, which is the typical non-discrimination clause, which was you shall not discriminate by means of race, color, creed, national origin. Now we've added one other, sex was one of them. Now we've also added sexual preference. So what we've essentially done is laid the gauntlet down to the Boy Scouts, not in a threatening way or a confrontational way, but to say to them, as much as we believe in most of what you stand for, and as much as we'd like to continue funding you, as long as your organization continues to discriminate based upon sexual orientation, we will no longer fund you. So the Boy Scouts, I think, locally may be defunded, if that's the proper term, starting this coming summer if they don't come into the 21st century.
Yeah, well, a number of, at least one that I know of, the whole state has cut United Way out because they fund the Boy Scouts. So it's not very good. The Boy Scouts, in their defense, recently, have you probably seen the TV ad where they have 100 million records of felons who have been sexually attacking little boys. And so they say, well, we have all these records, and again, they came under immediate scrutiny and attack because they didn't report these to the police and to the people who should know about these.
Yeah, and the scariest part about that are the stories where you read where local police and local prosecutors refused to prosecute because it was the Boy Scouts. I mean, they actually came forward and said, I've been raped by my scoutmaster, my assistant scoutmaster. Well, that would cause too much damage to the organization, so they let it go. That's incredible, just incredible that that would happen. But it happened all the time. As you can see from my tie, I'm a Penn State grad, and that scandal there was just horrific, where members of the university hierarchy essentially covered up child sexual abuse because they didn't want it to damage their reputation. Well, look what happened ultimately, and I think the same thing are going to happen with the Boy Scouts here, and perhaps some local officials, although from some time ago, where they say, hey, look, you know, we understand that you're a good organization, a good agency, or a good university, but there are certain things that you have to comport with, and if you don't, you're going to have to pay for that. And I think that's what's happening to the Boy Scouts right now. Penn State's been taking a hit almost a year now, and I think the Boy Scouts will for a considerable period of time as well. Now, I think the issue, and people may be confused in saying that the United Way, other states, other organizations, and other people are now promoting homosexuality. That's not the issue at all. The issue is equality. And just because somebody's sexual orientation isn't necessarily with what you agree with doesn't mean that person isn't entitled to the same rights that you are. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that you can have all of these inalienable rights unless you're a homosexual. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist that way, and the Supreme Court affirms that all the time.
Yes, they just had a recent poll. They said they came up with 4% of Americans were gay, but I'd always known it as 10%. And back in the Roman days even, Cato was quoted as having, in his writings, he said, you know, 10% of our citizens here in Rome are homosexuals, gay, and there are other mean terms they use. But at any rate, it is a, and this, as you say, this is a modern day issue here.
It is.
And hopefully the various organizations that are openly contemptible in terms of their behavior, in terms of sexuality, will probably unwind. I understand the Boy Scouts are thinking of changing their policy.
Well, I think they should, but again, they are a private organization. We've mentioned that in the course of this discussion, and I certainly don't tell them or even attempt to give them a lecture as to morals or what they believe. They believe in what they believe, and if they intend to continue that way, that's their business. It's none of mine. I guess what we're saying, though, is there are some consequences to discrimination. And if we are able to enforce one of those consequences as a result of their discrimination, they should be either prepared to amend their policy so they no longer discriminate or accept the consequences of that policy. And whichever way they go is fine with me. It's their organization. If they choose again to continue to discriminate, that's their business. I'm not going to say to them they're wrong. I might believe that morally, but I'm not going to say that. So it's up to them.
Okay. You'll see a lot of that on TV. It's been raging all week.
And will continue to mushroom.
Probably so. But this is the war of the worlds, I guess.
It is.
I got Deutschmasters. The Deutschmasters have decided to call it a day. It's over.
Really?
Yeah, they're known all over the county.
They've been around forever.
Yeah, they're terrific, and they just did German type music and the Oompa band and everything. And they just lightened up any organization that had a party going on. They come like the Ox Roast in Westfield, and they were terrific, and they are terrific. Well, they're going to do a celebration of the 50 years, half a century that they've been working here, and they're going to do it Saturday, October 27th. Now, I wonder when that would be. Coming right up next week. Saturday, October 27th at Eason Hall in Westfield, New York. Eason Hall, as you know, is next to the diner on the corner there on Elm Street. And you'll be able to stop in and have just a wonderful reminiscence. And they're going to do videos and tapes and background stuff and have a bunch of the Deutschmasters there. So it should be fun. And I'm sure there'll be another Deutschmaster organization arising from the ashes like a phoenix. Whatever you say. Okay, enough of that. I wanted to ask you about a couple other things. First of all, we always, whenever you're on the show, we always talk about estate planning. I just mentioned they're having a course on that. I think it's November 7th in Brockton. They're going to tell people about estate planning. Now, it's very important for seniors to plan their estate, although now it's getting harder and harder because they have a 10-year take-back, I understand, in New York State, so that it becomes very difficult to avoid losing your estate. You know, 8 now out of 10 families goes bankrupt because of long-term care.
The longer we live, and the more likely that is as well.
Yeah, it's going to be 9 shortly. So I wanted you to comment on estate planning for seniors. Could you tell us a little about that?
Well, it's very simple. You've worked your entire life, presumably, with the understanding that you want to be secure in your retirement, you want to enjoy your last days. Certain times, however, and you all know people to which this has happened, it may have happened in your family, it may be currently happening in your family. From a personal level, my dad had a long lingering illness before he died. My mom had Alzheimer's disease when she died, and she'd had that for an awfully long period of time. The diseases that I'm speaking of, Alzheimer's, to some extent, you can, of course, help them, take care of them yourselves, but it gets to a point where you can no longer do that, so you need professional care. The same thing happens with long lingering illnesses. Even though you may have health insurance, if you don't, or if your health insurance isn't particularly good, you have extraordinary expenses because, face it, I wouldn't know how to treat cancer at all, other than to take someone to a doctor or a radiologist or an oncologist for that treatment. That's my cure for cancer, is take them to a doctor. So we have a ton of expenses which obviously can erode somebody's estate. Well, you formulated your estate partly to, again, be comfortable in your retirement years, but also to cover those particular aspects. So what you don't want to have happen is to have, for example, medical bills eat away your entire estate, which can happen. I mean, medical bills are incredibly expensive. Now, that's not to say that if you can't pay your medical bills, that the hospital, the doctors, whomever it might be, are going to come and literally take your house away from you while you reside in it. But what has happened to it is, if you can't pay your bills, and I'm not saying this has to happen, but it can happen, the providers can bring an action, lawsuit for lack of a better term, against you to recover those expenses. Now, they know necessarily that it isn't possible to collect from you while you're alive, but your estate, when we think about that, there's your estate while you're alive, and then there's the estate that succeeds you upon your death. One of the things you thought you could be able to do is to transfer or pass on to your family, your loved ones, what your estate remaining would be, because almost everybody has some left over by the time they finally pass.
Their house, among
right,
everything.
But if there's judgments against that house, and again, while they can't take the house from you while you're in it, they can have judgments which then constitute liens against your property. I don't do math real well, so I'm going to do very simple figures. So let's assume your house is worth $100,000, and you have $150,000 worth of judgments against you when you die. Now, obviously, you don't care about them because there's nothing they can do to you anymore. However, when that house gets to be sold, presuming it will be for estate purposes, Again, I don't do the math real well except for simple figures, but 100,000 is the asset, 150,000 is the debt against that. Let's say there's 2 surviving children. There's 0 left in the estate because it's actually underwater to the extent of $50,000, and if you divide 2 into 0, it becomes 0. There's nothing to distribute. So one of the things that some people do is to transfer their house during their lifetime. Now, we talk about look-back periods. You need to be careful about that. If you have a debilitating illness which you know is going to lead to your death, or extremely high medical expenses, you're not going to be able to avoid losing that house anyway. I mean, this is something you need to do while you're healthy, both physically and mentally. When I say healthy physically, if you have a bad knee or a bad hip, as many people do, in my case a bad back, that's not what I'm talking about being unhealthy. I'm talking about you have terminal cancer. You know you've got 6 months left to live, but that probably, in fact, I'm telling you almost with every certainty, that a transfer at that point is going to be voided by the government because you did it in contemplation of death. Same thing if you have bad Alzheimer's. They might even question your ability to deed the property in the first place because you have to know what you're doing and understand what you're doing to have that transaction be valid. But if you're physically healthy, mentally healthy, that's something you may want to start thinking about.
Okay. You could, if you do have Alzheimer's, you could have a power of attorney granted to someone who could transfer it, right? And I wanted to ask you, transferring, like giving, what if you sell it? Does that come under that law? Say I sold,
the proceeds would.
I sold my house to, well, it hasn't been liened yet, see? I sell my house to my daughter, say, for a reasonable amount. But it, of course, wouldn't be quite as high.
Fair market value?
Yeah, fair market value.
Then you're okay.
Reasonably so.
Now, keep in mind, though, that the funds you received from that fair market value transaction, if they're part of the kitty, when government starts to take back your money, that's fair game for them as well.
You mean even though it was sold?
Correct. Because now you've converted it to a different asset.
All right. We're talking to Jim Subjack here. He is an attorney. He does a lot of elder care, and he's pretty competent and able. And at this point, we've got a couple of callers who wanted to come in, but they hung up. We were talking too long. But any other callers, you're welcome to come in. There's the number, 753-5225. You can ask Jim any legal question. He'll tell you immediately how to get out of your problem, maybe.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just jump.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the big three. As you grow older, you should do 3 things. For certain, whatever, if you don't do anything else. Write a will. Number 2, make sure you have a power of attorney, and not just a regular one, but durable power of attorney. And number 3, fill out your health care proxy so people know exactly what you want done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts or questions about it. You want to talk about the health care proxy. I think that's important.
Yeah, actually there's a common thread in all 3 that people need to understand, and it's a very simple concept, and most everybody says, well, it's not a problem. And it shouldn't be, and it hardly ever is. But a health care proxy, you're telling someone your desires, so to speak, for purposes of you're in a position where you're incurably that's a living will, but you're incurable, you're unconscious, there's no need to, you're not going to survive, or in the healthcare proxy case where you have medical decisions that need to be made because you can't make them. Don't presume that your child or your spouse or someone else will make the decision you want made. What may happen is, well, you know, I know that she wants it that way or he wants it that way, but I just can't do it. Same thing with a durable power of attorney. You have to have somebody that you can trust and is willing to take on that responsibility, and your executor and or trustee of your estate also needs to be somebody that's agreed to do it, because they can decline it. I mean, it's not something that you can force them to do. It looks like we have a call, maybe?
Yeah, we have 2 calls.
I'm sorry.
They're building up now.
I didn't mean to...
We have a 3rd call. Good morning, caller. You're first in line. Thank you for calling.
Good morning. You're welcome. I have a question for your guest.
Sure.
I tuned in a little bit late. Did I understand you to say that it's a 10-year look back now?
It's 5 still.
It is 5. Somebody told me it was 10 now.
No, it's still 5.
It's still 5. Okay.
Actually, it's been going up. And if you are thinking about this, I'm just going from experience. I've been practicing for an awful long time. It's gone up. The look-back period continues to go forward. And I think that's in part recognition of forward in meaning it gets longer. I think that's partly in recognition of what has happened, which is medical science has improved dramatically. Every year it improves dramatically. So what happens is where somebody who had Alzheimer's before kind of wasted away, now they can be physically active for a long period of time and certainly alive for a long period of time. And the same thing with some of the medical issues that you have, where certain heart defects were sure death within months. Now with proper care, proper treatment, proper diet, proper exercise, you can go on for years. And I think the government has recognized that and said, look, you know, once you've had that illness, we are going to, whether mental or physical, we are going to say that you have given your property away to avoid having to give it back to us after we pay those expenses on your behalf. So even though it's not 10 yet, it wouldn't shock me in my lifetime, which I hope is still quite a bit longer, to see it go up to 10. I don't see it on the immediate horizon, but again, it keeps creeping longer and longer.
Okay, caller, does that help?
Well, just one more piece. So then what is the actual date that triggers the look back?
The actual transfer. If today's the 20th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, on October 20th, if I were to deed, I'd have to do it with my wife because she owns it too, but if I were to deed our house to my children with a life estate to myself, the date would be October 20th of 2017.
So that from the day you sign papers?
Yeah, the date of the transfer, correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so that becomes a real problem. I don't know. Well, we got another call. Good morning.
Yeah, we have a couple more, I think. Although that one's hard.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's up?
I have a question for Jim Subjack.
Go ahead.
Does anybody know how they figure that formula for increase in Social Security?
Yeah,
actually, it's laughable.
Yeah, it sure is.
Laughable.
It's actually in writing, and they have. It's incredible to me because maybe we just live in an area where prices are going up a lot more than 1.7%, but I don't believe that to be true. But in the last, it's a 3-month period that they actually examine. But in that 3-month period, everything has gone up substantially. Housing has gone up incredibly in the last year. Obviously, fuel like oil and gasoline has gone up incredibly over the last year, which I don't understand, by the way, because oil barrel prices have been going down for the last couple of months, and gasoline still is going up, but if it's starting to creep down slightly, but they've got to be making a killing. You get tens of billions of dollars of profit, and nobody seems to worry about that. Well, anyway.
Congress doesn't because they're paying them off.
That's true, and they're invested with them.
Yeah.
Food prices have gone up substantially, and somehow they come up with 1.7%. And although they haven't, to my knowledge, announced the Medicaid or the Medicare increases, and that part,
which they take out of your Social Security.
Which they do. My guess is that's going to exceed the 1.7%. So actually what's going to happen is you're going to wind up with a decrease in your benefits next year, not an increase. The only thing I can say in favor of that is if you got a 0% increase, then your cut would even be bigger next year. So the 1.7% will help defray some of the increase, but I don't think it's going to defray it all, and I don't understand it myself. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, it does make sense in a way. Congress is doing away with Social Security by not giving you the COLA, which was guaranteed to protect you from inflation. They've set up a huge inflation. The raw materials prices went up 1.1% last month, and that's a 12%, 13% increase, and it's much more when it goes into manufactured materials. So we're in a raging inflation right now. According to the people who do the calculations and study these things, you've lost over 50% of your purchasing power on Social Security in the last 10 years. In other words, you're getting 47 cents now for when you had $1. And it's getting worse and worse. And Congress doesn't care. They love it because what they're doing is wiping out your Social Security in a very nefarious, evil manner. Thank you, caller, for bringing that up.
You brought up a point too, Reed, and I've
We
been
got
around
another call,
politics.
too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's take the call first.
Okay, caller.
Hello. Well,
Morning.
I'm fascinated with the subject. I did have a question, but it's not on the subject.
That's okay.
Okay. In the case of, let's say, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, who were old country, my father-in-law handled everything, period. So when he passed away, he had a pension, a good pension from GE, and he had an IRA and things like that. There's a great difficulty in finding out exactly what he did have, and then nobody in the family knew how to access these things. Is there somebody who facilitates that without charging you an arm and a leg for older people?
You looking for somebody to find his pension information?
No, that's all taken care of now. But
Okay.
I'm speaking in terms of today. Is there an agency that will help?
Track down
a
the
widow
assets.
or a widow.
Track the assets.
Find out if there are assets.
Actually,
and
there's-
how
I'm
to
sorry.
actually get into the. I mean, if you don't, you have secret words to get into all this stuff and so forth. If you don't know what your spouse's secret words were and so forth, his passport and so forth, you can't get into and access these accounts. Is there some way is there a public agency?
Yeah, actually, I would contact, because our local Office for Aging has been a godsend to this county for years.
Oh, yes, I've used it, and I think they're wonderful.
I agree with you.
Especially
They've
in
got
explaining
class
things.
people, class service. They've always been very receptive and responsive to its constituency, which are the citizens of Chautauqua County. I think they've got a number of senior advocates, either volunteer or even paid on their staff, that can guide you in the right direction to a point where most of the difficult details can be either resolved by them, or they've got you in the right direction
Someone
to
that
allow
can
you
help
to do
do
that
it.
yourself. So
Right.
I'd go there first.
That's a good idea, and I don't know why I didn't think of that. I also would like to take this opportunity to wish a belated birthday to Mrs. Emma Bishop, who runs
She
our
always
local
brings on the
dance.
dance club, you know.
Well, happy birthday. How long? on
I
the
think
show?
this is Mrs. Bishop, actually.
No, but it's
I
a friend
know.
of Mrs. Bishop, whose grandchildren Mrs. Bishop teaches in her dance studio. But she's a wonderful woman. I hope she has she has had the best birthday in a long time.
I hope so too.
And anyhow, thank you also, Mr. Powers, for your program. It has been, lately, I've found it has been very informational, and
Well, thank you.
I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I especially enjoyed last week when you had Mr.
What's his name?
I was going to pronounce it.
Shinagawa.
Yeah, I was going to pronounce that, because we hear a lot from his opponent, because he's well known and he's
Still lots of money.
that I
I see a
wasn't.
TV ad every 10 minutes, I think.
Well,
I get a
plus-
piece of mail every day.
Well, he's well known in the area, and I really didn't know a lot about his opponent, and I was real happy that you had him on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
We always have equal time for all political parties because we're non-political. So the way you become non-political is equal time if you do have anybody on, even though they're on a different agenda.
Well, speaking of politics, you have your prop there, the cat food.
Yeah.
First of all, he's got a can of cat food, by the way. If things don't get better, he's going to be showing us dry cat food because it's cheaper. But I think it's very important that everybody vote, too, because we're less than 3 weeks away from the election day. I don't care who you vote for.
Absolutely. It's the most important thing
It
you'll
is.
ever do in your life, because it's the only way you really get to, at least in a marginal way, determine which direction your country's going to go.
But I think it's important, too, and I see it more and more. Now, when you think about it, we've had some terrific presidents, we've had some mediocre presidents, we've had some in between. The country has always survived no matter who gets elected. And now it's getting to a point where I think if we don't change our course, the country won't survive no matter who's elected president.
I agree
Just
with
the
you
opposite.
100%.
We need, as the electorate, to start telling our representatives a lot more forcefully than we have that enough of this crap, and that's what I'm going to call it, if one party says we want this, the other party says, well, it can't be that, it has to be something else. What happened to the art of compromise? It has died. If you think that Romney gets elected president that it's going to change. No, it's just going to be the Democrats saying no to the Republicans instead of the Republicans saying no to the Democrats. And that's the system we have to change, and we have to change it quickly because we're at a standstill. You can see how far we are towards the edge of the cliff on a number of issues, and no one wants to seem to resolve them because...
And that's the secret, that word compromise. Apparently
it disappeared. It's a four-letter word.
Absolutely. I also have a theory. My theory is if you don't vote, don't you dare complain to me about anything political because you have lost your right to complain because you're not helping to solve the problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think not only do we need to go out on November 6th and vote, we need to tell whomever is elected thereafter, we're tired of your crap. Let us move forward, work with the other side. Let's get things done. And
I have an idea.
Well,
I think it's a
make
good
it fast. We got 3 more calls.
My idea is we should have term limits on Congress just as we do on the president.
Term limits. Thank you, caller.
Term limits.
You're going to be eating this stuff
or dry.
See this either dry in a can, or dry tuna fish, just like they did during the Depression. That's what's going to happen to you.
I'll keep calling in so that I get tickets to $5 off on that wonderful
right.
fish they have over at
the Lakeview.
The Lakeview, yeah.
Yeah, great place.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Valentino's, yeah, they have a fish place next door.
Thank you very much.
Okay, caller, thank you very much, caller. I hope that helps you. Caller, you're on. New caller. Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Reed. Good morning, Jim. This is Linda.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, Linda.
It's great to see you on the show, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. I just wanted to call that we do have services with the Chautauqua County Office for the Aging.
You mean you still have some money over there?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have some money. There were cutbacks, but we still have the money and services are being provided.
Well, I did tell you that it was reported that there's a trailer they moved down to the park now.
Yeah, I don't. It's not
it
them.
has Office of Aging on it. No, there's a big sign,
no.
Office of Aging. And at the back there's another door, and it says Veterans Affairs. So.
Yeah, I know. Well, there have been cutbacks, and things have been let go too for veterans and seniors.
You bet.
Yeah,
and most of whom are
vacation.
seniors, I might add.
Yeah, the veterans.
Yeah. Congress has got a long vacation.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, they're throwing the seniors under the bus, Linda. There's no question about that. On the state level also.
Hey, Congress has been on vacation for decades now.
Well, it's the best Congress money can buy, though.
That's right.
Let everything go. They just let all these bills just float. They just went. I mean,
they died.
But, you know, we have to contact our local representatives, our federal people, and let them know how we feel.
We do. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
As individuals and collectively as organizations. If you belong to a club of some sort, get them to do something about it. Individually, again, you've got to do something about it. Apparently, Congress, for the most part, and it's true, is immune from losing re-election because the way they gerrymander districts, they've got it so twisted in their favor, it's almost impossible to lose. But I think if enough people recognize that no matter how long they've been there, they may be ineffective as heck. They need to go. If enough people express that to them, maybe they'll get off their duffs and say, you know, maybe it's time for me to start working on behalf of the people that elect me. And so far, I haven't seen that for an awful long time.
Yeah,
well, people have to be active in finding out what the representatives are doing, how they vote, if they're absent. You can look up that record online. And speaking of that, we have computer training that's being sponsored by our senior employment program at the Chautauqua County Office for the Aging. Mm-hmm. And you can learn how to do all of those things at your own pace with a peer coach with you and a tutorial. And your peer coach can show you exactly how to Google that information and get in contact with your local representatives. Now, local, what I mean is your federal, you know, the ones who represent our district.
Right.
Yeah, well, right now Brian Higgins is, but he's going to be gone shortly.
As of the 31st
he won't be in our
December.
District anymore.
Right.
No,
we'll have Shinagawa or Reed as our new congressperson. Man, we can say that.
We can because it's going to be male, but we need to hold them accountable. We need to get them to move. We need to get them to start compromising and passing legislation, as opposed to we've got the politics of no, and it doesn't matter what side you're on, it's always no when the other side has an idea. Well, why don't you listen to the idea? If it is an idea you don't like, maybe what you can do is sit down with them and say, I like points 1 through 5, I don't like points 6 through 10. Do we have a common ground? They don't even do that anymore. It's just a no. And that's it, the end of the discussion, the legislation dies, and we sit here stagnant.
Well, it's our responsibility as citizens to be informed, to find out what they're doing, what's happening, and to let them know how we feel. We can't just pass the buck. We have to let them know.
I agree.
And we, of course, as you pointed out, it's almost impossible to get rid of a sitting congressman unless he's burned down an orphanage or something. You know, it's really very hard. They have everything set up. They get free printing. They get free stamps. They just sign it. They frank it. You have an awful job overcoming their power.
I know.
And they, of course, everybody owes them, and they have a lot of dough coming in, unbelievable, just a waterfall of dough. So it's very hard to get rid of one of them. If you say, I'm going to get rid of you, they just say, try it.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you keep informed and people let them know, they respond. You'll get a response.
I used to be that way, Linda. I don't know about today.
I get responses. I contact them.
Oh, you get polite letters, but they're meaningless because they don't even care. All right.
Keep at it, Linda. I support you completely. Keep at it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Attack. But let's just, you got to vote too. Get everybody in town to vote for the right guy or
right.
gal.
That's our privilege of our democracy. It's a wonderful privilege. That's sacred.
What's very important is one of our callers just posted, you have no right to complain or talk politics even, and if you don't vote. And that means, half of America is going to be running around violating the rules. Everybody talks politics.
But complaining. You're right. They're going to complain about what's happened, but they haven't done a thing to change it.
And they have a right to know who the people are that are running. They need to know in advance before they go in the voting booth.
There you go. How's Doug doing?
He's doing pretty good.
I never hear from him.
Well, we'll have to get him to talk to you next week.
Okay, try to, pump him up, get him all excited.
Yeah, and give him my regards as well, Linda.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, have a great week.
Okay, you too. And keep training them dogs.
and people should go for the computer training. We have a spot in Westfield at the Patterson Library.
Is that where they're holding it?
That's where it is in this area. Then there's one at the Dunkirk Library, one at the Jamestown County Office for the Aging, and we have other spots.
When are these trainings coming up? Say in Westfield,
They're going on constantly. It's at your own pace. It's individualized training. It originally was funded by our federal funding source, Senior Services of America, but now our program is handling it ourselves. We also have some mini grants from very generous donors that we've applied for and we've been awarded to keep the computer training going. We have trained well over 700 people. It's a wonderful program to get people started who are not familiar.
That way you can contact your congressman very easily. Thank you, Linda. We got time for one more quick phone call?
I'd be the first person to flunk out of the computer.
Thanks.
training,
Have a great week.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks, Linda. Last caller, you're on. Hello?
Sounds like they disconnected.
Hi.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we go. Hi.
The first step to getting their attention, the politicians' attention, is to do what my wife and I just did and drop your party affiliation.
Do you think that works?
Well, I think it's the first step.
What else would you do?
Probably force myself to not vote for any incumbent again.
Just vote against everybody.
Yep. I hate to say it, but there's got to be some way to get their attention, and the only thing they understand is not being there.
Yeah, well, even though you can't get them out of their position with dynamite in most cases, you can't knock out an incumbent, you can at least diminish his plurality a lot. I mean, if he starts to lose his vote, he knows he might be in jeopardy.
Right.
Well, thank you,
That's
caller.
very true.
Keep at it. So you just go down and say, I'm changing. I'm not going to be a Republican anymore. You change to Democrat, or do you just say,
Nope.
I'm going to be undecided?
Drop all the party
blank.
affiliation. Right.
You
Blank.
just go to independent, whatever that
Yep.
means.
No party affiliation.
Okay, well, there you go, caller, friends. that probably is a very, very solid point, because you get the whole party upset, not just the guy who represents the party in your case in the Congress or wherever it may be.
The interesting part, the caller had made a very good point, which is voting against incumbents. And there actually are incumbents that want to work with the other side or work with their own side. But that's rare, and it's the exception, I think, rather than the rule. That's part of the problem. Everybody says, well, it's not my congressman, it's not my senator that's on that side. And that's not necessarily true. Follow Linda's advice, which is to look to see how they voted, look how often they voted, because some of them are there very rarely. We'll see how often they voted and how they voted. And if it looks to you like they're one of those people that just is there to collect their paycheck and to say no, then vote against them. If they're actually somebody that's worked hard, something that seems to be less and less frequent now, then vote for them. Support them. Let them know you support them. Let them know you support what they do. And to the contrary, if your incumbent is somebody that's one of those naysayers that do nothing, let them know that too.
Don't be a no critic. Be make sure when somebody does something right, you let them know they've done it right.
Right.
Thanks a lot, caller.
Okay, bye-bye.
Appreciate your call.
Bye-bye. The Congress is pretty tricky too. You'll say you voted against the sex discrimination law. They say, "Oh no, I voted for it three times," because they'll have various votes, and they'll vote yes on one side, and then later on, when it counts, they'll vote no. And they can tell you, well, I voted for it all the time, or whatever it is.
And you know how that's done, and it's unfortunate that we have a system that allows that. First of all, it would be nice if some of the politicians would tell the truth once in a while. Secondly, what you have, though, is when they say, I voted for it and I voted against it, that's probably true because the bill is introduced in a number of different forms. You have one bill that sounds like it's rational, and they attach some stupid rider to it that has nothing to do with good business, good congressional leadership, so they vote against it. So they voted for it, and they voted against it.
We're out of here.
Oh,
I want to give you 30 seconds uninterrupted to close off. This is your time, Jim.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. As always, I enjoy my time with Reed. I think Reed does a terrific job for the community, and I enjoy being his guest. I look forward to a point where I can come back again, be his guest to discuss whatever it is you want to do. I'll try to be a little more aware of talking through people that want to talk on the telephone. I apologize for those of you that may not have had the opportunity to wait, but I'll try to be better the next time, and I'm looking forward to coming back.
Okay, I apologize to the last caller.
We cut one off? I'm sorry.
That's the way it goes. No, we didn't have time. I want to thank special people who do wonderful things for this time and this program and this channel. Chuck Kelsey, Devin Taylor, Chris Burt, Randy Burt, Chris Ramaker, Jeff Zook, Don Zenz, and finally, John Hamels. Auf Wiedersehen.
German. We're speaking German again.
May all that is proud and true and noble abide with you. I'm Reed Powers.